Welcome to Genesis Unleashed.
Today we're asking the question, is atheism a religion?
Today we're asking the question, is atheism a religion? And of course, we would say, yes, it is, but that is, of course, disputed.
Right. Many atheists would say that atheism is not a religion because it doesn't require belief in the supernatural or, or a creator or anything like that. But this is where you can get into some problems when you're trying to define what a religion is. Because no one seems to doubt that Buddhism is a religion, for example.
Right.
And it denies a belief in an overarching deity like the supernatural creator of the Bible, right? We have, for example, Jainism. Well, that holds the thought that everything's sacred just because it's alive, right? That type of religion.
And it's a religion.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the Mayans, that they worship the sun as a deity itself, rather than a deity associated with the sun. They actually worship the sun. So it starts to get a little tricky when you're trying to define religion.
Another thing that seems to be happening lately is that the advancement of atheism in Western society, the word atheism is being redefined by many groups, and perhaps to try to refute the claim that atheism is religious. Claims from atheists like atheism simply means the non-belief in the existence of deities, or that calling atheism a religion is like calling bald a hair color. They say those kinds of things. We're trying to say that atheism isn't a belief system, it's a disbelief system. That's what they're saying.
But that's kind of like me saying, well, look, I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster, simply because I lack belief in the flying spaghetti monster. But the truth is, when I say that, I'm also saying I believe that there's no such thing as the flying spaghetti monster.
Of course.
It's a positive affirmation.
Classic definitions of atheism recognize this. For example, according to the Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy, atheism is the position that affirms the non-existence of God. It proposes positive disbelief rather than mere suspension of belief. Atheism is the belief that there is no God.
Right. So really, if you can just change the definition of words here and there to kind of fit your philosophical needs, then, different people can argue all day long about these definitions. But, the rubber kind of hits the road when you start comparing the similarities between belief systems. Kind of like saying, well, what makes a car or a dog a dog? What makes a religion a religion? Right? So Oxford University's educated Ninian Smart's work, he's a man highly decorated, well-known in the field of secular religious studies, he's widely accepted by anthropologists and researchers of religion as broadly defining the various aspects of religion without focusing on things unique to the specific religions he's looking at. So in his book, Dimensions of the Sacred, An Anatomy of the World's Belief, Smart identifies 7 dimensions of a religion. Now here's the 7 dimensions proposed by Smart. He says they are narrative, experiential, social, ethical, doctrinal, ritual, and material. Of course, not every religion has such dimensions, nor are they all equally important within an individual religion, but it gives us an excellent template to study from an expert in the field.
Right, and so let's just run through that list. Let's start with number 1 on Smart's list, narrative. Okay, every religion has its stories. Almost all religions have stories explaining where the universe came from and what humanity's part in it is. Narrative is particularly important. It's a particularly important aspect of Western atheism. The prominent atheist Richard Dawkins said, referring to Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. So evolution is an explanation of where everything came from without God. The cosmos came out of nothing. At the Big Bang, nothing exploded and then became everything. That's what physicists are saying. One creature turned into another. Humans evolved from non-human creatures, hence humanity's place in the cosmos is being just another species of animal. Evolution is an integral part of the atheist's of atheism, the atheist story.
Right.
And it's a story from beginning to end. It's a narrative, absolutely.
Right. Next, we go to the experiential component. There are actually two aspects to the experiential dimension. The first is the events experienced before someone founded a religion. For example, the disciples. They saw and touched the bodily resurrected Jesus, right? They experienced that.
Right, yeah.
And Christianity spread after the disciples experienced and observed these and many other things.
Right.
But it's often asserted that Charles Darwin, after observing evidence during his voyage on the Beagle, right?
Yeah.
He had observed these things, experienced these things. He developed his theory of evolution. So he experienced events which led to his belief system. Now, the second aspect of the experiential dimension concerns the experiences of later adherents to, to the faith or so on. Now, many people feel certain emotions when they participate in certain religious ceremonies. But some atheists have reported feeling liberated after converting to atheism. Karl Marx, for example, said that the removal of the illusion of happiness by the removal of religion was a step towards true happiness. So if you eliminate happiness, you get to happiness.
Wow, interesting.
Now, Smart also seems to include faith as part of his, the experiential dimension. Of course, the meaning of the word faith, that's often twisted, right?
Sure.
To make it mean things that it's not supposed to mean. For example, in Christianity, faith is logical. It's defined in Hebrews 11:1 as being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we don't see.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't blindly believing the impossible, which is how many atheists actually define faith, if you think about it, but rather trusting the promises of God, whose past promises have been fulfilled, of course.
So those promises are trustworthy.
Right.
There's reason. We have a reason for the hope that we have.
Right. Now, atheism actually requires faith, using their definition, that the laws of chemistry, physics, and biology were once violated. Life arose from non-life via chemical evolution.
It's a violation of science, violation of these laws,
through abiogenesis. And now that contradicts one of the most well-known laws we have in science, the law of biogenesis. So atheism seems to have an experiential component and a great deal of faith as well.
Yeah. Now let's look at the social component of religion. The social dimension of religion looks at the hierarchies and the power structures present within the religion, such as the Hindu caste system.
Right.
You can think
They've
of
got
that.
levels of
In missionary religions, it also includes how people get converted and how missionaries go about their work.
Right.
Many scientists are high up on the social hierarchy of atheism because their research enhances their understanding of the world and the facts they uncover, and it's often interpreted as evidence for evolution, which is vital, of course, to atheism. You need evolution to be an atheist. Particularly honored are those scientists who write extensively about evolution. Because of this, many scientists include a little about evolution in their research papers, even when there's little or no relevance to the topic they're writing about.
Exactly.
Now, contemporary atheism has been fueled largely by authors promoting their atheistic beliefs through evolution as science and so-called fact. In the preface of his book, The God Delusion, Dawkins says, "If this book works as I intend, religious readers who open it will be atheists when they put it down." That's interesting. Dawkins is saying he hopes that this book converts religious people to his worldview, exactly what a missionary of any religion hopes to do.
Exactly. Next on the list, the doctrinal component of religion. Doctrines are the beliefs and philosophies that develop out of a religion, not necessarily being specifically stated in the religious narratives, for example. The example from Christianity, Christian doctrine would be the doctrine of the Trinity. Right? That's not directly stated in the Bible, but it's logically derived from the Bible. Contemporary atheism gained popularity in the 18th and 19th centuries after the Enlightenment. In 1933, some prominent atheist philosophers realized that the effect the lack of a belief in God would have on the morals of society. And so they wrote what they believed would be a suitable set of beliefs and goals for secular society in the 20th century. In doing so, they formed the branch of atheism known as secular humanism. By and large, many atheists believe and adhere to the things written in the Humanist Manifesto, even if they don't know the specifics of the document. The doctrines, ethics, and goals outlined in the Humanist Manifesto, while being atheistic and accepting evolution is true, are opposite of what would be expected if they were solely derived from the evolutionary narrative.
Right.
This is because this particular branch of atheism, humanism, also makes the assumption that humans are basically good, which is an assumption, not an observation.
Yeah. Then there's the ethical component, the next step in those seven points. Atheism is a morally relativist religion.
Right.
Most atheists adhere to an ethical system, but in atheism, there's ultimately no foundation for morality, as many atheists admit. Here are a few examples. Let me summarize my views. This is Dr. William Provine. Let me summarize my views on what modern evolutionary biology tells us loud and clear. There are no gods, no purposes, no goal-directed forces of any kind. There's no life after death. When I die, I'm absolutely certain that I'm going to be dead. That's the end for me. There's no ultimate foundation for ethics and no ultimate meaning to life, and no free will for humans either. And again, a very well-known professor from Cornell University. Mm-hmm. And here's another one. First, there is no moral law. The universe is a nasty, heartless place where most things wouldn't mind killing you if you let them. No one is compelled to be nice. You or anyone could go on a murder spree, and all that is stopping you is your self-interest. Now that is from P.Z. Myers, a University of Minnesota professor and has got great religion as an atheist there, but anyway. And of course, Richard Dawkins himself, a very famous atheist, says that we live in a universe which has no design, no purpose, no evil, and no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Of course, many systems of ethics have been proposed by atheists, and utilitarianism is probably the most popular one. Some atheists have taken a further step by creating ethical systems based on the evolutionary narrative and the principles of survival of the fittest. People who've lived by such principles include perpetrators of, for example, the Columbine massacre, the shooting spree there, the Jokela school shooting, and all these other shootings in Finland, for example. And on a much larger scale, the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people, atheists or not, inherently know that such systems that lead to such atrocities must be wrong, what we call wrong. But atheists cannot give a logical reason for why it's wrong. That doesn't come from atheism.
Right.
This contradiction was highlighted by Dawkins when he said this. He says, I'm a passionate Darwinian when it comes to science, when it comes to explaining the world, but I'm a passionate anti-Darwinian when it comes to morality and politics. It was also graphically shown when two evolutionists wrote a book claiming that rape is an evolutionary mechanism to spread male genes, and see how one of them squirmed to justify why he agreed that rape is objectively wrong under his philosophy.
Right.
A world governed purely by atheistic evolutionary ethics has been shown by history to be a horrible place to live in. Most atheists recognize this, of course, and choose to live by ethical systems of other religions.
Right, they borrow from other
like Christianity.
rules.
or at the very least, they live by the laws enforced by the government.
Right, yeah. Now, ritual is the only dimension which on the surface might appear to be absent, right, from the religion of atheism.
Okay, yeah.
In some religions, rituals have meanings attached to them, right, such as the Passover, right, commemorating the Israelites' escape from Egypt. Now, because atheism is relatively a recent movement in mass, it doesn't have much of a history, really, to commemorate. But, of course, in other religions, rituals such as sacrifices and dances, they're done to appease the gods or spirits. Now, atheism doesn't have gods or spirits. It doesn't have the second type of ritual either. But it's noteworthy that in recent years, the atheists' public commemoration of the anniversary of Darwin's birth each February, right? Darwin Day, and even of the publication of his Origin of Species, along with calls for the general public to do the same. They're actually calling for Darwin Day to be made a holiday. That's rapidly becoming something of an annual ritual amongst them.
Yeah.
Now, one might even say that this modern atheistic commemoration is being celebrated with greater fervor and passion than many long-standing religious rituals. They really want to promote this.
Yeah.
Now, it's also interesting that there's been a news story about how atheist megachurches are starting to take root all over the world.
Yes.
The opening line of the story said this: "It looked like a typical Sunday morning at a megachurch. Several hundred people, including families with small children, packed in for more than an hour of rousing music, an inspirational talk, and some quiet reflection. The only thing missing was God."
Looks like a ritual to me.
Yeah, it's church for atheists.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps atheism just needs to, have a little more time, and they'll develop more of these ritual components.
Yeah. The material dimension of religion, says Smart, includes all the physical things created by a religion, such as art and buildings, and also natural features and places are treated as sacred by adherents.
Right.
Now, mass atheism, again, is in its infancy, but look at what atheist philosopher and writer Alan de Botton is proposing to build in London, England. A 46-meter, it's 151 feet, tower to celebrate atheism.
Yeah.
Amazing. Proposed is a temple for atheists among the medieval church spires of the City of London to evoke more than 300 million years of life on Earth. Each centimeter of this tapering tower's interior has been designed, this is the proposal, to represent 1 million years. And a narrow band of gold will illustrate the relatively tiny amount of time that humans have walked on the planet. The exterior would be inscribed with the binary code denoting the human genome sequence, and all sounds very good.
Yeah.
Whether this tower is ever built or not remains to be seen. However, there's a monument to atheism that has been built.
Yeah.
From a 2013 news article, a group of atheists unveiled a monument to their non-belief in God on a Saturday to sit alongside a granite slab that lists the 10 Commandments. This is in front of the Bradford County Courthouse. A small group of protesters blasted Christian country music and waved "Honk for Jesus" signs. The atheists celebrated what they believe is the first atheist monument allowed on government property in the United States. They said, when you look at this monument, the first thing you will notice is that it has a function. Atheists are about the real and the physical, so we selected to place this monument in the form of a bench, said David Silverman, president of the American Atheists. This atheist group has vowed to erect 50 more such monuments around the country in public sites where the 10 Commandments are now allowed to stand in the future. Of course, nature itself is often treated as sacred by some atheists in and of itself. There are two extremes in the range of ideas held by atheists on the material. And here's one idea. Natural resources are here to be exploited because of survival of the fittest. And humans are obviously the fittest species, or we should respect, this is the other perspective, we should respect all of nature, particularly living things, because to kill them is tantamount to murdering a cousin. Now, this second view essentially holds that all life is sacred. Now, both ideas can be derived from the evolutionary narrative, but views tending toward the second idea are more prevalent than views tending toward the first at this point. An atheist view of the material dimension is strongly influenced by their view of the ethical dimension as well.
Right. Yeah, it's interlinked. So the conclusion here, atheists often claim that their belief is not a religion. Of course, this allows them to propagate their beliefs in settings where other religions are banned. But this shouldn't be allowed to happen. Yeah. Contemporary Western atheism unquestionably has 6 of the 7 dimensions of religion set forth by Smart. And the remaining dimension, ritual, also has started to develop. So it's fallacious to, assert things like, well, calling atheism is a religion is like calling bald a hair color.
Right,
I mean, a better analogy would be something like, well, calling a shaved head, that's more like a hairstyle, right? So other than the denial of the divine, there's little difference between atheism and other worldviews, typically labeled as religious. And atheists are actually admitting it when it suits them. Here's an example from here in Canada, an article from the National Post. This was titled, "Atheism is a Creed that needs the same religious protection of Christianity and Islam. And that's Ontario Human Rights Tribunal actually
okay, so now
declared
now
that.
they're arguing that atheism is a religion in order to get special rights.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Atheism really shouldn't be taught or enforced in settings where other religions are banned,
Right.
and shouldn't be favored by laws which imply a religiously neutral government. Atheist philosopher Michael Roos has admitted evolution is a religion, and it could be considered the narrative dimension of atheism.
Right.
Here's what he says. I love this quote. Evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a full-fledged alternative to Christianity with meaning and morality. I am an ardent evolutionist and an ex-Christian, but I must admit that in this one complaint, and Mr. Gish, talking about Dwayne Gish there, who we debated with, is but one of many to make it. The literalists are absolutely right. Evolution is a religion. This was true of evolution in the beginning, and it is true of evolution still today. So evolution, therefore, came into being as a kind of secular ideology, an explicit substitute for Christianity.
So he admitted it openly.
He did, yeah. After he was in the 1982 Arkansas trial where Gish was saying it was a religion, and Roos was saying, no, it's not a religion. And later, much later, he wrote this, and he said, Gish was right. It is a religion.
That's right, he changed his tune.
Amazing. Now, evolution is taught pretty well as fact in most Western world public schools.
Yep.
So no wonder the religion of atheism is on the rise.
Right.
It's going up.
It gets taught in public schools, no other religion allowed. So guess what? You know, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. From what we've seen, atheism is a religion. For details, see the articles we linked to in this video's description, and we'll see you next time on Genesis Unleashed.